All right, we're live. Welcome, those of you that are joining us from YouTube, live stream land. Happy November. Glad to see you again, and we'll get started with our community call for the month. It's amazing. We only have like two of this left for the year, so this year has kind of flown by. All right, let me try to advance the slide. Just a reminder on our community code of conduct. If you want to look at more of the details of what we have in our code of conduct, feel free to look at our repo. You can read the full text, and there's a contact email as well. As for the agenda, it should look somewhat familiar. We have a lot of community news, especially related to events that have happened since our community call 4 weeks ago, and what's coming in the next few months. I feel like we're gonna end the year with a bang in terms of events, and then we do our traditional quarterly roadmap update. Our planning quarter is off by like a month, so our Q4 is basically November to January of next year. So we, as we do every 3 months, we want to recap what we've done in the previous quarter and talk to you about what we have up and coming for Q4. I think we gave you some sneak previews of, especially some of the activities that have been happening in Q3. But we'll give you a quick update on that. And any questions you have, either on live stream or on Zoom, do let us know either through chat or you can just let us know verbally. I'm just typing a question. I'm typing a couple of things on YouTube live stream. So in terms of community news, just a quick recap on events. We have a lot of these over the past 4 weeks. And I think I mentioned this last time. All the materials, like if that's available in terms of slides or recording, are posted when you go to the specific events pages. So, I circle one of them here. We had our workshop last week that Igor ran on Cube views for metrics management. So both the slides and recordings are there. And as a reminder, you can always subscribe on our YouTube channel, and then you get notified of our upcoming live stream like this one. And we also had another workshop, Headless BI with streaming data, that RTM led. It talked a lot about a Kafka streaming support. And also our co-founders, RTM and Pavel, took part in a podcast episode a couple of weeks ago on the Data Stack show. So if you want to listen to the recording of that, that's available as well. And in terms of workshop, the one we had last week, I did send a survey for those of you who attended. So if that should be in your inbox. I also sent a reminder on Monday. Those feedbacks actually very helpful, especially in terms of, we have a question there in terms of what topics you like to see in the future, and that kind of validates sort of our assumption on what we should plan for in the next few months. So I encourage you to respond to the survey. It'll be open for another several days, but if you can find it in your inbox, it should only take you 5 minutes. We have a few questions there that you can fill out. So that would be much appreciated. So that's a recap for events in the past 4 weeks or so. And let's talk about some of our upcoming events. So tomorrow, actually here in San Francisco, we are sponsoring the Trino Summit. This is where the Trino community members sort of get together, and I believe it's at the Commonwealth Center in San Francisco. So it's a one-day event, and we're proud to be one of the sponsors. I'll personally be there because I'm somewhat local, so I'll be there. First thing in the morning when the event starts, and I'll be there along with several of our colleagues. Look for those of us that are wearing Cube paraphernalia on whether it's hoodies or polo shirts. So come grab us. Love to meet you. And any chance we get to meet users or community members in person, it's always a treat. So come grab us and talk to us about why we decided to support the Trino Summit. And somewhat related to this, I mean, Igor's blog post just came out just in time, obviously, in anticipation of this event. So we announced our integration with Tree now. As usual, Igor wrote a great blog post about detailing the integration and sort of how to make things work. So do check this out. This is hot off the press, if you will. Igor, anything you want to add on the blog post? I mean, feel free since you're on the call.
Yeah, sure. My 2 cents would be that I guess we waited, maybe even too long to introduce Trino support in Cube, because obviously Trino, who's a great query engine, which is open source and which is probably still known by a substantial share of the audience as Presto SQL query engine, but still, it's a very popular one, right? So getting support for Trino in Cube, it's pretty huge, right? So, and if you've been kind of following our stories and content on query engines, you know that well, we blogged about how Cube works with AWS Athena, which is based on Trino. We blogged about how Cube works with HANA, which is well, actually a hosted version of Presta, which is a fork, of some of earlier versions of Trino. So we've been going around the topic, but now that we have their official driver for Trino, I'm really curious to see what the community and Cube users build, with this integration, right? And I guess it's even more exciting given the variety of data sources that Trino supports, and a lot of kind of data federation capabilities are present in Trino, and putting Cube on top of that, opens a few important opportunities, and one of them is the ability to deliver the data straight to their custom built front-end apps, for the embedded analytics scenario. And given that Cube has the access control built in, and a set of APIs, including the REST, GraphQL, and SQL API, it's really interesting. What kind of use cases? Well, first of all, embedded analytics, but even more, this pair opens now. So yeah, really excited about this. Please feel free to check the blog post, and yeah, if by any chance you're local to their San Francisco Bay Area, consider maybe dropping by at the Trino Summit venue.
Cool. Thanks, Igor. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, I believe there's no registration fee for the event. So basically, obviously you can't get any better deal than that. So registration should be pretty simple. I think I just filled out like a couple of fields. So it's not going to cost you anything to attend the event. And I believe at the end of the day, they also have a happy hour. So you'll have more chance to sort of meet up with Cube team members if you're there. Cool. So moving on. So another event we have is called OSACon. I mean, this is an event that we participated in last year. I believe Pavel and also Tomby, for one of our community members, or actually one of Cube Hero that spoke at the event. And then we're proud to be a sponsor again, as a community sponsor for the event 2 years running. And also, fortunately, our team has a session. I mean, this is a pretty it's like a pretty full day conference. It's on a virtual platform, so you don't need to travel. Like you can see in the card here, it's an online event. I believe our team has a talk like in the middle of the afternoon Pacific time, but if you're able to join, if it's anything like last year, I'm sure the recording will be posted as well. So free to attend online. I saw a lot of good speakers for the event, in addition to our team. So I think our team and others, including Igor, posted a lot of like a blog post about headless BI. So that's sort of the topic that our team will be talking about, like why headless BI we think is important, and in addition to that, why it needs to be open source. So we're looking forward to participating again, and I encourage you to attend our team sessions. But like I said, there are a lot of good panel discussions too. So want to thank our friends at Altinity. We had a webinar, I believe it was like a little over a month and a half ago. So glad to be able to participate in their event next week. So it's a little less than a week from now on Tuesday, but hope to see a lot of you folks there, and happy to have our team speaking about the headless BI category. And so moving on to events in December. So our next workshop, Igor will be one of the speakers, and we're trying to get other speakers as well. I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, we're working on, Igor is going to be able to handle the topic well by himself, but it'll be nice to have a people from a Metabase community, for example, to be there, but we're working on that. But we had a workshop on replacing Looker with Cube and Superset. That was more than a month ago now too. And I mean, that one really well and got some good feedback on that. And actually on our Slack, people have said, can you do something similar but with Metabase? Because obviously we have a lot of users in our community using Metabase. So we decided to sort of replicate that session, and it's in our sort of traditional, quote unquote, traditional time slot, Wednesday at 9 a.m. on December 7th. So definitely look forward to that. And I've already seen people register. So there's definitely interest in the event. If you click on the link, just a quick, I think you just have to fill out 3 fields to register for the event. So that's been streamlined. Before the workshop, we have another blog post that I want to sort of point people to. This was published a couple of weeks ago, titled Self-Service Analytics with Metabase and Cube. So, I mean, I think Adnan did a really good job of sort of going step by step in terms of how to integrate Metabase with Cube, how to use specific Cube features like, turning on pre-aggregations, and how to build dashboards on Metabase. It's got video clips in there too. I mean, it might seem long, but there are a lot of graphics and video clips in there. So it should be a pretty easy and digestible read. So before the workshop next month, I mean, feel free to go through these, and there's also a code samples there too that you can take a look at, so you can almost do your own quote unquote live demo. And take a look at that. I encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions on those, or any content that you want Igor to go more in depth on, I mean, please let us know through Slack. That would be very helpful too. So it's one of the reasons why put the blog post to provide some base knowledge that people can use, and also if you have any questions on specifics of this integration, that would sort of help us put together the content. And let me pause here, Igor. So I'm sure as you're putting together the content, that you have some thoughts on this too. So
just like you said, we're really excited that we got some word from a community member who, well, quote unquote, requested this webinar to happen, right? But it's not only that. So as you know, this is not kind of hard data. It's more like any data that I have. But I believe that Superset and Metabase are top 2 open source business intelligence tools used with Cube. Obviously, there are proprietary ones, but as far as I know, within Cube community and kind of the data stacks which are popular there for the open source BIs, Metabase and Superset are really the most popular ones. So it's not only so this webinar it's not only following the request by a community member, but also reflecting their kind of real distribution of interest for open source BI tools that we observe in their growing ever growing, I would say, community that Cube has. And yeah, even if you already made up your mind about the best BI tool to use with Cube, I think that Metabase, this webinar, the blog post, and Metabase as a tool, these are all kind of good things to check out and maybe consider using Metabase, because kind of contrary to, you know, to how other tools appear, Metabase is very distinctive for a couple of features. Well, at least personally, I think it's very distinctive for its very polished and user-friendly look, right? So it's not that common in software world, and well, maybe it's harsh. It's harsh thing to say, but in open source world too, to have a very user-friendly, clean and beautifully designed UI. But Metabase has that definitely. And another thing is that Metabase has this amazing X-ray feature that allows to kind of literally X-ray your data source. And if you connect Cube to Metabase, you'll be able to just quickly get an almost complete dashboard with some metrics, with some charts, just literally by clicking a single link or a button. So this feature is really great for kind of quick understanding of what's the data in the data source, and I think that it's really cool that we can use that in Metabase. So definitely feel free to RSVP for the webinar, and I'll be happy to present in December.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And I think we'll end the year with a bang with this workshop. So moving right along, I mean, there's one more event the following day. Believe it or not, I mean, December tends to be kind of quiet, but that's not happening to be the case on the event front for us. So there's one more event. I mean, again, here in the Bay Area, this is a face-to-face, in-person event. So related to kind of, I mean, we talked a lot about like a tree now earlier, but I mean, Presto community is also getting together on December 7th and 8th. We're excited that Pavel will be speaking on Thursday, day 2 of the event at 4:25 p.m. Pacific time, and very excited. I mean, Computer History Museum, if you haven't been there, is a good place to visit regardless. And it's also like it's only like 4 miles from where I live, so I plan on biking over there. And Pavel will be talking again about Headless BI, but this will be more technical in nature. We'll talk about our implementation of Headless BI and some of the architectural trade-offs that we had to think about for a Headless BI implementation. And you can find more info on PrestoCon at the link there for Linux, under Linux Foundation. They're hosting the project and the event. So go take a look. And I mean, there is a fee to attend the event, but it's only like $100 US. So for a 2-day event, I think it's a pretty good deal. And I believe at the end of day 2, like shortly after Pavel's talk, there'll also be a happy hour. So, Pavel, myself, and there'll probably be a couple of other Bay Area folks from Cube that will be in attendance. So if you happen to be there, again, I mean, please come and say hi to us. And I mean, if you like real technical presentations, Pavel gives like a great in-depth technical talk. So this is something that we're really looking forward to. This is sort of our last events to close the year. So we're very excited about it. And then we're already planning like events or workshops in January, February timeframe, and we'll probably have more announcements for 2023 events in the December call. So stay tuned. But yeah, we're very excited. I don't think I've ever had to like dedicate this amount of time on events, but this is sort of what happens to community as we mature. You'll see us at more events and more conference style presentations. Cool. Moving right along, I'm just checking to make sure that there are actually quite a few people on YouTube live stream, making sure there are no questions. So it looks like we can progress here. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, as we always do, we try to be very transparent about what we're working on, particularly on open source side of things. So I wanted to give a recap on what we did in Q3, and talk about what our plans are for the next 3 months. So here's our product roadmap for Q3, and then we have a Kanban board, and we organize. We typically have like a 3 to 5 epics that we plan to work on for each quarter. So 2 of these that are done are, I mean, this is not surprising. I'll read the ones down at the bottom first. I mean, streaming pre-aggregation, like including support for KSQL. So obviously that was done. We did this in time for the Kafka community event called Current early in October. So that one is obviously done, and we also did a workshop, and also related to Cube views that Igor led a workshop on last week. So the epic for metrics and Cube data model, that's what we titled it. So you'll see like a related or associated pull request there. I may have missed 1 or 2, but I think I put the key ones in there so that you have a visibility in terms of what was involved. One of the epics that we couldn't quite get done was adding YAML support, but we're very close. So I think I'm allowed to sort of say this, like you'll probably hear some announcements like within the next week or so about YAML support. So this will be done in about a week or 2. And Igor, you can tell me if I'm mistaken, but you see again associated pull requests that are already merged, and then one sort of in progress. But so that's sort of where things are with YAML. We're extremely close. We have a few weeks of delay, but hopefully you'll understand. But this will be available in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you already added like I saw that the changes in slides, but go ahead, Igor. But
yeah, just 2 cents here. Yeah, first of all,
yeah,
if you wonder what that YAML support might look like, then the best source of information that we currently have is the blog post with the views announcement. So there you can see a lot of, well, quite a few data schema examples with code provided in JavaScript and YAML notation. So definitely feel free to navigate there and see how that looks and feels. And yeah, and I really, you're right that their YAML epic, is really destined to be completed really soon. And for those of you who are able to cope with the lack of documentation, but maybe are curious to try something new in a self-serve manner, you can actually check what we have in the releases on GitHub, right? So if you search for YAML, you'll see some items there, but definitely remember this is still uncharted territory, right? So try that at your own risk, and please await for the official announcement that this will be done shortly.
No, I mean, that's a great thing about open source, like you said, Igor. I mean, like I typically do that too. Just go to our repo and just search for like a YAML, or like a Redis is another example of things that are sort of in flight, in progress. And you can kind of get to see, like, I mean, I especially look at a lot of PRs for documentation. So that gives me a sense of sort of what's up and coming. So being in open source, you get a kind of preview of that even before announcements. Cool. So YAML is very close. The replacing Redis with Cube Store, I mean, we're going to move that to Q4. I mean, you'll see it in the next slides. We couldn't make enough progress on that, unfortunately, in Q3, but we'll sort of The goal is to complete that work by end of this quarter. So we'll just move that to Q4, like we've done with some of the epics in the past. I mean, we try to be aggressive with our epics, but if you hit like 100% of them, you're probably not setting a high enough goal, right? Aggressive enough goal. So that typically happens. I don't think we ever had a time where we hit 100% of the epics. So it gives me a sense that we're setting pretty aggressive goals, and we're also working on other things that pop up that can become urgent. So that's sort of a recap for Q3, and you can look at more details under our projects if you go to our repo. And then let me just advance the slide. So you'll see a slightly different view for the Q4 roadmap. And the reason for that is so, I mean, GitHub, I mean, I noticed this a while ago. They have like a new projects, and the old projects, they called it like classic. So let me like get out of full screen and just show you. So if you go to our repo and go under projects, so all the old like a roadmap items, including like a Q3, will be under your projects. In parentheses, it's called classics. So that's where things are. So it's not gone. It's just in a different like a folder, so to speak. So the Q3 that I'll close probably after this call, but you can look at all the closed ones like from Q2 and other quarters earlier. So going forward, I decided to sort of try out the new projects, and this is where you see the Q4 roadmap. And let me go back to the slide. So yeah, it's sort of a housekeeping thing, but it's, if you want to look at all the roadmap, basically go to our repo and hit on the projects tab. So let me go back to the slideshow here. So we have 4 epics, and I have slides for each one of them, like, replacing Redis with Kubestore I talked about, SQL API improvements, read-only drivers, and improve configuration. And then again, these are like, if you go to our issues under GitHub, you just search for epics, that you'll find them all there. It's all public, and you don't need to like copy down the slides or anything. So let me go through each one of these. So I'm being like somewhat repetitive with replacing Redis with Kubestore, and as Igor pointed out earlier, we had a blog post that was penned by Pavel a few months ago. He'll explain the reasoning for why we're doing this. It's mostly because it's becoming a bottleneck and a source of inefficiency for a lot of people, especially for like a high load workloads. So we decided to sort of sunset Redis and move towards Kubestore. And as I said, Q4 is a little interesting because of all the holidays, especially in the US. But my guess is by like an early January timeframe, we'll make a big announcement about completing this migration to Kubestore. But go ahead, Igor. I think you're about to say something. But
yeah. So if you have a minute, if we have a minute, I might try to provide some historical context to this. So probably not everyone on this call, right, closely tracks and follows how Cube develops the product. But some of you might remember that a couple of years ago, even before Cube Cloud was introduced, and then Dockerized installations were kind of the default for Cube. Even before that, all that, Cube was a kind of a Node.js application, right? And there was a day when we specifically deprecated the embedding Cube into Node.js web servers, like as our Express.js middleware, specifically because of the pain that kind of setup was causing for high load installations. And frankly, with major use cases where when Cube is used with cloud-based data warehouses with billion row tables and even more, it's almost always high load, right? So I think that this Redis deprecation just is in line with many architectural and product decisions that we were making here in Cube. First, by deprecating their embedding of Cube as in Node.js applications, then by rewriting a huge chunk, almost half of the code base in Rust. And now, as you can see on GitHub, Cube is a Rust project with less than half of the code base written in TypeScript. And actually deprecating Redis and replacing it with a Cube store is completely in line with this. And I think it makes even more sense given that every production Cube installation or deployment has Cube still running, because this is the best storage engine for pre-aggregations, which are pretty much required for low latency and high concurrency of queries, right? So why maintain two pieces of software that would need to be configured to maintain independently if you can just keep using Cube Store and just remove Redis and maybe save some resources by doing that, but more save yourself from some pain of related to its maintenance. So if you're self-hosting Cube, I think it's going to be a substantial relief, right? And even if you're using Cube Cloud, well, if you're using Cube Cloud, you wouldn't notice anything, but still, it would be a huge step forward to provide some more resilience and stability to your deployments. So yeah, either way, I think it's a really good change that moves Cube forward, to support all production use cases regardless of how high load they are.
Cool, awesome, thank you. All right, moving right along. So the next one is like a SQL API improvements. So, I mean, obviously, like we want to support more BIs, but not only that, we want to, like support more advanced features of BIs that we're already supporting, like Tableau as an example, like the ones that are listed here that's listed here is like a Tableau paging as an example. And then we're looking into supporting like observability tools like Monte Carlo and better joint support over the SQL API. So that's what's sort of up and coming I mean, actually, I almost said next quarter, but it's this quarter. So if you have any questions on any of these that are listed here, again, these issues are public and open. I mean, feel free to add comments or questions here. Not sure, Igor, if you want to add anything here beyond like what I listed here under the epic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be short. So, I think that the list might seem kind of assorted and maybe not very individual items maybe are not very related to each other, but I think that this epic it just reflects our commitment to just be continuously improving the SQL API. The API that we've just recently updated and the one that enables a lot of downstream tool support for Cube, right? So this list, it's part just continual improvement of what we wanted to support anyway. Part of it is brought here by by the feedback of the Cube community and the users. So yeah, I will be happy to be tuning it. And if you're using the SQL API, feel free to report any issues that you might have with it, either on GitHub, through Intercom on Cube Cloud, or through Slack. So we can compile a good list of further SQL API improvements, for Q1 2023. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, basically the theme is, making our SQL API better. Or continue to improve it. I mean, like Igor said, the list might look, somewhat disjointed, but that's the theme, SQL API. So moving right along, we only have like a few minutes left. So This is another one that's been brought up by a lot of community members. We're looking into read-only drivers because right now, like you need write permission to create like a temporary tables, and for example, when you're building like a bulk exporting data, and obviously that was an issue for some of the users and community members. And initially, we'll focus on some of the cloud data warehouses that we support. Like the Snowflakes and Databricks of the world, for example. But we like to hear from community members on other drivers that maybe we should be looking at. Again, the focus will be on cloud data warehouses because that's where a lot of our current users are. But if there are other data sources that we support, that I have a link here that we should be looking at, do let us know. So.
Yeah. So
ahead,
my two cents here would be that the focus on data warehouses make even more sense. When we consider the volumes of data stored, in data warehouses, say compared to traditional transactional databases. So yeah. And also, I think that this might be a cool improvement in the developer experience when you're just getting started with Cube. So you don't have to worry whether the user you're connecting Cube with to your data warehouse has right permissions or not. But well, just a quick reminder that in a production setting, especially if the volume of data that you have in your, say, BigQuery or Snowflake or Redshift is huge, then probably your go-to solution would be to use an expert bucket that would allow you to download your result sets to a blob storage, and then Cube Store would take the data from there. So this is what's intended to be used in production scenarios under huge load. But when you're just getting started with Cube, yeah, this kind of read-only drivers for all data sources, they're going to be a time saver. So yeah, this is a way to look at it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, good point about as people are getting started, because that tends to be a roadblock too, because you run into sort of permission issues. So that's a great point. I think we have our last one. So I think somewhat quietly, I would say, like we made a lot of configuration improvements for Cube, not only for cloud users, but for open source as well. And then I don't think we've ever had this as a theme, but we wanted to sort of highlight the ongoing work that our development team is doing. I mean, this one is, I've seen a couple of issues where this gets brought up regarding date range. They want to do something simple like last week, or last quarter was I think there was even a specific issue for that. So we'll simplify that and you'll see an improvement there. And then the other one, this again gets brought up from time to time, particularly on Slack. If you have a multi-tenancy setup, it doesn't make sense to select like one default data source, right? So we're gonna make improvements to that for configuration. So we'll basically drop that requirement, but you may have actually seen, like I said earlier, some of the docs changes that are up and coming regarding this. So feel free to search for that and take a look at it. So that's, like I said, that's an early indication that something is coming soon in terms of like improvements or new features. So I think those are some of the main examples that I have. Like Igor, I don't know if you want to add anything here, but.
Yeah, I'll just say that this is going to be, a series of quality of life improvements to the configuration, and hopefully that would make your configs cleaner. Maybe let you remove, some tiny bits of code. And a huge shout out to everyone who's been reporting issues with the configuration and just suggestions to improve it. Here they are.
Yeah, this sort of gets overlooked. Especially from development team's perspective, but it's sort of good to work on like a fine tuning things. And, I don't necessarily think these are like a technical debt, for instance, but it's always good to sort of check those off from our to-do list. So I'm thankful for our development team for making commitment to sort of work on these to make everybody's life easier and make it easier to use Cube. So I think that's the last epic. Yeah, it definitely is. So that's a last slide. And thanks everyone for joining us. I'm actually kind of floored at the number of people that are joining us on YouTube. So I think we might have a record. So it's so hopefully you'll have a good rest of the month, and we'll do this again in 4 weeks. And like I said, we have a number of events that are coming, like whether it's in person or virtually. Hopefully we'll come across a lot of you soon. And then wish you a good day. Have a good one. Thanks for joining, Igor.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, bye.